Tasha. She had the door open 4 inches, chain still on, and she almost closed it right back on his voice alone. No. Please, it's about Malik. Her hand froze on the edge of the door, not because his voice cracked on the name, though it did, but because in 16 years, Derek Whitfield had never once said their son's name to her face, not at the paternity hearing, not in the 2 letters he'd sent, and she'd never opened, not once. You don't get to say his name, she said. You don't get to know his name. I need 5 minutes. You had 16 years. I know, his jaw worked, and he looked down at the manila folder pressed against his chest like it might stop something from getting out. I know what I had and what I did with it. I'm not here to fix that tonight. I'm here because, he stopped, swallowed hard enough that she watched his throat move, because I don't have anywhere else to go. Whose life? My son, the word came out wrong too fast, and he corrected himself before she could react to it. My other son, Caleb, he's 12, leukemia. The registry ran a match this morning. He held the folder out through the gap in the door, hand shaking. It's Malik, Tasha. It's a perfect match. It's Malik. Rain kept coming off the porch roof in a hard line between them. Tasha didn't take the folder. She looked at Derek's face, older, thinner around the eyes, a stranger built out of a man she used to love, and said nothing for so long that he finally lowered his hand. I'll tell him you were here, she said. That's all I'm promising you tonight. She closed the door, chain still on. She didn't watch him leave, but she heard his car sit in the driveway for 11 minutes before it finally pulled away, and something about that, the 11 minutes he couldn't make himself drive off in, was the first true thing he'd shown her in 16 years. 16 years earlier. He'd sat across from her at his mother's dining table, both hands flat on the wood like he needed the surface to hold him up, and said, I'm not signing anything until I'm sure. Derek, look at the calendar. You know exactly when. I said I'm not sure. He wasn't at the hospital when Malik was born. He wasn't at the test her mother insisted on, the one that came back with a number the technician read twice out loud because it seemed too clean to be real. The results came to him in an envelope. He opened it alone in his car, in a parking lot, read it once, folded it back along its crease, and put it in his glove box. 3 weeks later, he had a new address in Charlotte and a new job, and within the year, a woman named Renata who never once heard Tasha's name. Tasha raised Malik over a laundromat on Fenwick Street, double shifts, as a home health aide, her own mother covering the nights the schedule didn't leave room for anyone else. Malik was 6, the first time he asked why he didn't have a dad like the other boys at Vacation Bible School. Tasha didn't have a clean answer, so she gave him the truest one she had. Some people aren't brave enough to stay, baby, and that's about them, not you. And watched him carry it around for years like a stone in his pocket he touched sometimes without meaning to. By 14, Malik had stopped asking. That silence worried Tasha more than any question ever had. Derek married Renata 2 years after the move. Caleb came 4 years after that. Derek made every game, every school play, every stitched-up chin at urgent care. Some Sundays, in his new pew in his new city, he went quiet mid-service and stared at a fixed point on the wall until his wife touched his arm and asked if he was all right. Just tired, he told her, every time, and every time she believed him, because he'd gotten good at saying it like it was true. Tasha told Malik on a Thursday, at the kitchen table where she'd raised him, because she'd never lied to him and wasn't going to start with silence either. Malik listened with his hands flat on the table, very still, the way he got when something needed both hands to hold down. He came here, after 16 years, for this. Yes. Does he know anything about me, actual things, not just that I exist? No, baby, I don't think he does. Malik didn't say anything for a long time. He picked up a fork, turned it over twice, set it back down exactly where it had been. So I'm supposed to give part of my body to a kid I've never met, to save a family I was never part of, and he couldn't even ask me himself. That's about the shape of it. That's messed up. It is. He looked at her then, and something in his face was younger than 16, 5 maybe, still touching that stone in his pocket. What do you want me to do? I'm not deciding this one, Tasha said. I decided everything alone for 16 years because I didn't have a choice. This time you do. Whatever you pick, I'm standing behind you, but it's yours. He didn't answer that night. He didn't answer the next one either. On the third night he came into the kitchen while she was drying dishes and said, without any wind-up, I want to meet him first. Caleb, not Derek. I want to know who I'd be doing it for before I decide anything. They met in a hospital family room under bad fluorescent light, a coffee machine blinking a broken red error code in the corner. Caleb was smaller than Malik expected, bald from chemo, hunched over a sketchbook with the fierce concentration of a kid trying not to think about needles. Hey, Malik said, I'm Malik. Caleb looked up. Are you my brother? Dad said maybe I had a brother. Yeah, Malik said after a second. I guess I am. They talked for 20 minutes about nothing that mattered, a video game, where the hospital jello counted as food, and Derek stood by the door the whole time, not sitting, not speaking, one hand gripping the back of a chair hard enough to whiten his knuckles. When Caleb laughed at something Malik said, Derek turned his face fully toward the window and pressed the back of his wrist against his mouth, shoulders locked rigid, and stayed that way until he could trust his own face again. Malik saw it. He didn't say anything about it in the room. He found Derek by the vending machines afterward. I'll do the donation, he said. Not for you, for him. Derek opened his mouth, and Malik cut him off before anything could come out of it. You don't get to say thank you yet. You get to show up. Actually show up, not checks, not calls twice a year. If I'm going to be in his life, you're going to be in mine. That's the whole deal, and I'm not negotiating it. Derek nodded. He didn't trust his voice with words, so he didn't try. He put a hand on his son's shoulder for the first time in 16 years, and Malik let it stay there. The transplant took. Caleb went into remission on a Tuesday, the same day of the week Derek had first stood on Tasha's porch, and Derek kept the deal in the only way that ever counts, which is the boring way. Bleachers at Malik's games, sitting a careful 3 feet from Tasha, without either of them fully explaining the arrangement to anyone, learning slowly and badly how to be a father to a boy who'd already finished raising the version of himself that didn't need one. Tasha never got an apology sized to match 16 years. She stopped waiting on one. What she got instead was smaller and harder to fake, a man doing the unglamorous work of simply being there, week after week, instead of performing the words that used to cost him nothing. Malik still keeps that stone from childhood, metaphorically. Some habits don't leave just because the reason for them finally shows up late. But some Sundays now, 3 of them sit in the same pew, and Caleb leans over during the announcements to whisper something that makes his brother laugh. And Tasha watches the 2 of them without needing anyone to explain to her what she's looking at. She'd already lived the whole truth of it for 16 years, long before it ever knocked on her door.